second. Hello, everyone. We are live and welcome to the weekly show of Classroom Without Walls, episode 107. And today is a very special episode because we have an amazing guest, and also because look here. Oh, no, here, Facebook. I'm actually going live at the headquarters, the Facebook, the one and only Facebook headquarters, and I literally just got this T-shirt. Super excited, and for this very special episode, I don't know when will be the next time I come back to Facebook. So really excited to do this live streaming because Facebook is where I got started on my live streaming journey. But anyway, and today we are talking about money.
Money.
The money mindset you need to prosperity and abundance and fulfillment. This is something that as an entrepreneur, I personally struggle with a lot. And our guest of honor, Andrew Wang, is an amazing expert, very seasoned financial advisor, and I can't wait to learn more about money, financial literacy, investment from Andrew. And we are live on LinkedIn, and we are also live on Facebook, on Periscope, and on YouTube. Let me know in the comment section where you are joining us live from. I'm actually in San Francisco, and let me know if you are also in San Francisco. And as I mentioned earlier, our guest of honor today is Andrew. Just in case you don't know who this amazing gentleman is, and Andrew and I connected online, but last year we connected in person when Andrew was a speaker at Inbound and with Maurice Smith. Pretty amazing session. And Andrew is the host of Inspired Money, which is Forbes top 10 personal finance podcast. And Andrew is also a seasoned financial advisor. He is a managing partner at their own business, their own company called Running Meat Capital Management. And Andrew's work got featured on Forbes and many other major publications and media outlets. And I'm really excited for today's interview at this very special location with a very dear friend. So Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here. And you're a rock star. You're at Facebook, taking Facebook buses, and the
Thank you.
food looked really good.
I gained at least 10 pounds. Seriously, not kidding. Yeah.
Did you have to pay for food, or was it all free?
No, it's all free. It's all free. They have so much good, healthy, and not healthy food. Yeah.
Yeah, Silicon Valley cafeterias. I hear really good things.
Yeah, but I love the energy here. Like they have so much open space, and like people are walking around and so diverse, so diverse. I love it. Yeah. Anyway, do you want to? And people are joining us live. Do you want to add anything? To my very brief introduction. Can people hear me clearly? This is not my best ideal setup here right now. I'm literally at the corner in the lobby.
No, your intro was awesome. I feel like I can go home after that. What more can I add after that? That's
personal
crazy.
touch. That's a personal touch. Anything personal you want to share with us?
Anything personal? I have 3 young kids, ages 12, 9, and 7. So my house is controlled chaos. In fact, as soon as this call is done, I will be rushing to my daughter's violin lesson because I'm supposed to monitor that and see how they're doing.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Since I know a little bit of music, but admittedly, I am terrible at reading music and music theory. I just fake it. I play guitar, I play the Hawaiian ukulele, and I just pretend really well.
You're a great musician, and I want to know how playing music is helping you doing what you do. But that's a question for the later. And today, for those of you just joining us live, people from Eva from Australia, and my dear friend Peter, and join us live from the UK is monitoring people's questions and comments on different social media platforms. So if I miss a question from you, and Peter is going to take care of you. So please feel free to tag him, and thank you for joining us live, Peter. And today we are talking about financial literacy and how to make more money, how to become smarter at managing our money. So Andrew, as I introduced you earlier, you host a very popular, in fact, top 10 personal finance podcast called Inspired Money. So I want to ask you, what inspired you to start Inspired Money?
For me, it's part passion project. And then because I do have money in the title, I can connect it to my work. And I really vowed to create a podcast that's loosely about money. But as a financial advisor, the expectation is always that I'm going to have a really dry, boring podcast. And I didn't want to do that. In fact, I came to podcasting as a listener first. I was listening to Amy Jo Martin, she had a digital marketing agency. Her clients were Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Shaquille O'Neal and some really big sports, athletes and celebrities. And she has a podcast called Why Not Now. I was listening to her podcast and she challenged her listeners, what's something that you've been wanting to do, but you haven't done it yet? And that's the whole focus of her show, right? Why Not Now? It's interviewing successful people about that moment where they ask themselves that question. And she asked the listeners, what's something that you've been wanting to do that you haven't done yet? And it popped into my head. I said, I think I'd like to start my own podcast. And that's what
Wow.
I did.
Wow. And look at you where you are today, and you launched your podcast in September 2017 which is also like when I launched my own live streaming show the same year. But I launched mine in June. So you interview so many successful people, entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, speakers, millionaires. And I want to ask you, after talking to so many people about money, financial literacy, what are some patterns that you have observed from talking to those people in terms of investment, financial literacy, and money mindset?
So many lessons, which is why I keep doing it. And as I said, it's part passion project. It's something that I really enjoy doing. You told me before we went live that I look tired, and that's probably one of the reasons why. Being a like independent show creator, that takes a lot of time. But as you said, I learned so many things from every single conversation, and that's really what keeps me going in those moments where I kind of question myself and say, I'm tired tonight. Should I really publish a show tomorrow morning? And even my wife sometimes asks me, is it worthwhile? And I think it is because the podcast, like this live stream for you, becomes a platform that allows me to talk to all these fascinating, interesting people. And I really get to figure out like what are some of those common themes. I would say that in most cases, it's not money that motivates them. They
Uh,
have a passion and a purpose for whatever field they're in, whatever they're doing. Because some people are building a business, some people are entrepreneurs, other people work at a company, but they some other big thing is driving them. And then some of them are artists or creatives. Some of them are in the nonprofit space where they are running a nonprofit and they are really fundraising and trying to make a bigger impact in the world for some purpose that is near and dear to their heart. So there's that passion, that purpose, and most often, money's the byproduct for them. They say that
wow, I
even
love
if they
that.
weren't making money, they would be doing what they're doing just because they love it and they feel very grateful. They have tremendous gratitude that they're able to make a living doing what they're doing.
Wow. So that's definitely a very compelling one, right? So money comes as a natural byproduct as they are pursuing their dreams, their passions, doing what they love. So anything else compelling, recurring themes that you
Oh
notice from
gosh.
talking to those people? Share three. I want to hear three. So we discuss one, share two more with us.
Goal setting is one. Um,
Explain what do you mean?
Episode number 17. I talked to a like multi-world record adventurer. His name is Colin O'Brady. And actually, since I've had him on the show, I think he set 2 more world records. He most recently walked across Antarctica. That was, I think, last year, December. Maybe that was 2018 in December. He walked across Antarctica unassisted. So he had to bring a sled with all his gear. It was like maybe 200 pounds of food and whatever supplies he needed. He was the first person who accomplished that feat. And then it was just a month or so ago that he and a team rowed. They rowed a boat from the tip of South America to
Oh my God.
Antarctica. And again, we're the first humans to be able to accomplish that task. And I learned from him that he sets small goals. He has a big goal in mind, and then he's setting small goals to reach that big goal. And for him, it's all about mindset. He has. When I interviewed him, his big accomplishment was the Explorer's Grand Slam, which is climbing the 7 highest peaks of every continent, as well as doing an expedition at the North and South Poles.
Wow.
And he completed that somewhere in the range of like 137 days, which was the fastest ever. And he just has like such an inspiring story. So from that, I kind of extrapolated and said, we can apply lessons that he learned climbing Mount Everest to just making simple financial goals, whether it's saving money or investing our money. It's all about writing it down, having a big goal, like it's the big audacious goal, and then making all the small ones because you don't know if you're going to reach the big audacious goal. But if you set the small ones marching in that direction, you know that you're heading in the right way, right? You're progressing forward. And if you're lucky, you'll hit the big one.
Oh wow. So I love it. I remember there is, I don't know for those of you, maybe some of you are familiar, some now. There is like when we set up goals, we use this SMART, right? So we want to create realistic goals. But I know I love what you mentioned, have one that is audacious, that is almost unrealistic, and
Yeah.
then have one that is more realistic. Is that how you kind of approach this as well?
Yes, that's absolutely how I approach it. I also interviewed Joe Polizzi. He's the founder of Content Marketing Institute.
Oh yeah, I know
And
him. Yeah.
he also talked about goal setting. He's a big goal setting guy. He actually carries around a notebook. And I think he has 4 or 5 categories of goals. So he has professional and business goals, he has family goals, he has like giving or philanthropic goals, he has spiritual goals.
Wow.
So he has all these different categories, and he actually looks at them every day. I think he looks at them every morning when he wakes up, and he looks at them every night before he goes to bed. And he
Wow.
feels like even though he may not be coming up with a plan at that very moment, just looking at them and being thoughtful about it on a daily basis keeps him on track.
I
And
love this.
that's what enabled him. I mean, crazy stories because he had set his goal when he started Content Marketing Institute with his wife. I think he had set a goal to sell it in 7 years,
Wow.
and he ended up selling it in 8. I mean, almost right on the mark,
Yeah.
except just
Yeah.
the timing was a little bit off. He said that within 7 years, which was his goal, he couldn't sell it at the price that he wanted. So he just had to wait a little bit longer, and then he was able to exceed his target for selling the company.
Wow, this is great. I want to ask our live audience, what are some audacious goals that you have for yourself? For me, it is building a school. I started this crazy idea last year. It has been a really amazing journey. How about you, Andrew? What are some of the main pillars that you create your personal and financial goals? Come on, you are a financial advisor, right? So what are the big pillars? Share with us.
Well, I think
We
big
want to be
pillars.
successful. Yeah.
The problem when it comes to personal finance is that most of us do not learn personal finance in school. I was just talking to somebody this week. He went to business school, he has his MBA. He said, I never learned personal finance in high school, undergraduate, business school. It doesn't matter. So that's one challenge, right? That's why it's no surprise that many people, all these statistics say that we're behind where we should be in trying to reach retirement. The other thing is that the financial services industry loves to create very complex and complicated products that are difficult to understand. I mean, even a mutual fund, you get a prospectus that might be 100 pages with a lot of print created by lawyers. It just
Yeah.
becomes difficult to understand. So I think that personal finance in its simplest form is make more than you make more than you spend, right? That's not complicated.
Yeah.
So there's the saving side. How can you save more? And then the other side of that is how do you invest your money? Because investing allows you to make money while you're sleeping. Everybody likes the idea of passive income. I know that Pat Flynn has his Smart Passive Income podcast,
Absolutely. I
and
mean,
I've
who
listened
does?
to that. There
Yeah.
are real estate investors who talk about passive income so that you can, own a property and have rental income. Like that's all great too. But the stock market investing, and I think that just over 50% of Americans, or roughly 50% of Americans, have access to a retirement 401k plan from their work. It's critical that you're taking advantage of that retirement plan. And it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be complicated. Just having a systematic, contributions that are coming out of your paycheck, putting it into this retirement plan, and not only doing that, but make sure that it gets invested because many
Yeah.
people will sign up for their 401k and then years later they realize that, oh, it's been sitting in cash the whole time. Don't fall
Yeah.
for that. Don't fall for that mistake.
Yeah. I love how you have two different categories here. One is um, saving, and the second one is investing. So, in terms of saving, I saw this question from Shval. Thank you for joining us live. And Shval, he asked, how can we learn to become more disciplined in terms of spending money? So, any tips that you can share with us?
The easiest way, I think that everybody will tell you that you should have a budget, which can very easily feel overwhelming, right? Everyone, we know deep down, okay, I should have a budget, I should be monitoring. But even I think a better way to think about this is just track your savings rather than trying to think about coming up and developing a budget, which is overwhelming because you don't really know how much am I spending, how much should I spend. Just start with track your spending
Yeah.
because that just becomes easier and you don't even need to get so granular that it's every penny. Just track like your main expenditures. How much are you spending on your house, whether it's rent or your mortgage? How much are you spending on food? How much are you spending on entertainment? How much are you spending on your transportation? Just those categories, odds are that may represent about 70% of what you're spending. And as human beings, most of us know how much we make, right? If you ask someone, how much do you make right now? Most people can answer that question, but many people cannot answer how much are you spending every month? You don't really pay attention. And just by tracking your spending, it's almost inevitable that once you see it on paper, those major expenditures, you can't help but to try to make some improvements there, right? If you
Yeah.
see that you're spending a lot on eating out or you go to the movies, you just identify areas where, okay, maybe I can save a little bit here every month. And,
Yeah.
those changes do make a difference over time.
Yeah, this is great because what you mentioned just reminds me of a podcast interview I listened to in terms of time management. So the person was talking about instead of budgeting your time, but actually tracking your time and how much time I'm spending on this and how much time I'm spending on that. So similar logic. So I love this. And you kind of mentioned 2 points. I want to go back to the question we discussed earlier. The first one you were talking about is it's not really about money, but more about pursuing your dream and the passion. The second one is about goal setting. So, what's the third pattern or themes that you have discovered from interviewing so many successful people?
The third pattern. I think it's really a willingness to always be learning.
Mm-hmm.
And also, part of that is that there's like a humility because the people that I talk to, most of them have reached some sort of level of success, but none of them feel like they've reached the top of the mountain. No matter where they are, they all feel like they can still be doing better. They can still make more. They can still give more. And yeah, I think part of that is humility, gratitude, and a willingness to want to be growing, right? I think that's what it comes down to. It's that growth and self
Yeah.
development.
Yeah, I think they're doing a tour at Facebook, so everyone is really excited, screaming in the background. So
Oh,
that's what
shucks. I thought
that's
they
what
were
the
cheering
convo
for me. I thought they were cheering for my. I thought I said gratitude and they cheered.
So here are some questions from Dan. So so guys, for those of you who are just joining us live, I'm actually going live at the Facebook headquarters, and we have Andrew Wang join us live to talk about financial literacy, financial intelligence, and money, right? How we can make more money. And let's answer some questions from the live audience. So we answer that question from Shwo. So here's
Good for
one
you.
question from Dan. So how people starting own business should invest at each stage of their business? Oh, I love this question. And how can people starting out continue to invest and save? Yeah, I love this question because even people joining us live right now, we are at different stages. For me, I'm more like an early stage of my startup company, and you are probably much more advanced than me. So how should we pursue investment and saving at different stages of our business development?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understand the question totally, but I think as a business owner, you do have to. It's not different. It's not much different from your personal. It's like it's important to kind of map out your goals and your priorities, what's important to you, and what are you trying to achieve. Because every choice that you make, every dollar that you spend, you do have to make a choice whether that is money well spent or not. And all of us come to money with kind of different mindsets. Like I
Mm-hmm.
tend to be a saver, which is good and bad, but there is a need to invest in yourself and your business. And I know that about myself, that I kind of want to like pinch the pennies and not spend. But it's necessary, right, for my business that you have to invest. You have to take some of your profits and invest that for future growth, whether that's hiring people or building systems or purchasing software that is going to help you be more efficient. So I think those are some of the choices. I'm not sure if that quite answers the question, but depending on what stage you're in, you're always weighing those pros and cons, like what makes sense for your right next 12 months, next 3 years, next 5 years. But you can't just spend like indiscriminately because then you may have a problem.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And do you pay yourself?
Of course, you have to pay yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not a nonprofit.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's mistakes that we made. When I started running my own business, I feel like I was running my business as almost like a charity. And like I think sometimes because you forget I think maybe, as you mentioned earlier, and financial literacy is definitely not in my DNA. I never learned this from my school, and then I worked in higher education for so many years, which is a service industry. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, this money mindset. So I want to ask you, from interviewing all those successful people, what are some things or some habits that they do that you think that we should do, like in terms of like investment, in terms of finance, in terms of money, and that they are doing, especially those like 7-figure, high-end, 6-figure entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, whatever they do, that they are doing, and you think that we should also be doing, but we are not doing?
Well, I think it does require taking some time to be sort of introspective and reflect on what your relationship is with money. I know that when I spoke with you, you said that you had to sort of reinvent yourself and break free from some of your negative money thoughts. I recall you mentioning the idea that money doesn't grow on trees and that you felt like you had to really work hard and kill yourself to make money. And you had to break away from some of those ideas. So I think that the idea that you have to forgive your past money mistakes, you have to uh, be open to the fact that you can change your own money story. You can make changes, right? Just because you're not happy with your past doesn't mean that you're just stuck there. You can make changes. And I think that that comes with being open to new opportunities, being very positive. And that's one of the things that I've learned from running the Inspired Money podcast, because the idea for me is that I always felt like, in addition to not learning personal finance in school and the complexity of products in the financial services industry, we just don't talk about money enough, right? We don't,
Actually,
it's
that's one of my questions. Sorry to interrupt you. We feel
sure.
so comfortable talking about money, so keep talking. Yeah, I want to know why.
Why we don't talk about money?
Yeah.
I think everybody comes from it a little bit differently. I think that sometimes it's cultural, sometimes it's because of one's like past experience in relationship with money. So sometimes there's shame and they don't want to talk about money, or you don't want to ask for help. And then other cultures, you do talk about money more openly. I mean, I think that in the Chinese culture, people not are not that shy talking about money. I remember my friends who they lived in Connecticut before. They had a very expensive house, and they said that when their relatives come to visit, that was their first question. How much did you spend on this house? And they didn't want to say, but they said that, not all cultures are that comfortable asking that question just point blank.
That's so true. I mean, like I came from a Chinese background, and our small talk is talking about money. How much do you make? We just ask without even feeling uncomfortable. And after I came to the US, like 2 decades ago, I learned my very first lesson was don't ever talk about money. Don't ever ask people how much you make, how much this cost. I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting because I grew up like I'm very used to talking about money with my parents and with my friends. Yeah, that's true. What you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, so part of it's cultural, but I think that, a lot of the time we don't talk about money because we get busy. Life gets in the way. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in the business of managing people's investments. And even in my own household, we don't have as many money conversations as we should. I mean, my wife and I both try to educate our kids about money and teach them the value of money, the value of saving, the value of being charitable and giving money away, saving for the future. So I hope that my kids learn about that. But we get busy with 3 kids at home. My wife and I don't have like deep money conversations that we probably should be having more frequently, just to make sure that we're on the same page and that we are marching in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah, I love where you are going. And here's a question, kind of related from Dan. He's asking, what are the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make around money, and how about employees? And if there's any difference in terms of their financial savviness, one group versus the other. Like most of my audience join us live right now. We have about like 30 plus people join us live right now, and people are um, like entrepreneurs, small business owners. So, what are some mistakes that this group of people tend to make in terms of financial literacy, investment that you want to share with us?
I think the biggest mistake that people make, both sides, whether it's the entrepreneur or the employee, is not starting early enough, because they say that our money has two best friends. That's time and compounding, like compound growth. The earlier you start, It increases your chances significantly of having $1 million or more at retirement. For you to start in your 20s makes such a big difference than if you start in your 40s or your 30s. It always pays to start earlier. And I feel like uh, employees, even when they have a 401k plan that is offered to them, many do not take advantage of the plan. I mean, sometimes it's because there's debt and you're trying to pay your debt off first. But I think frequently it's just because you don't have time. It like finances tend to be something that that you should be addressing and that you need to take care of, but it ends up on the back burner because other things are happening, right? Because I have to go pick up my kids from violin or I have to go to a school event. Suddenly I'm not paying attention to my retirement funds. So I think it does require you to really earmark some time to address your finances, take a look at your investments, review your investments, and then implement a plan. I think that most Americans do not have a formal financial plan. Many people say that they feel like they don't have enough money to do that. But to that, I always say that how often do you use Apple Maps, Google Maps, or Waze when you're trying to drive somewhere? I even use it when I'm taking a short trip. So I think that with your money, you need to have a plan in place, even if it's not super detailed. If you don't have one, it is like trying to navigate somewhere without navigation.
Yeah, so can you like I'm used to making like create a social media content calendar, create a social media business plan. So what do you mean by like a financial plan? What are some essential elements for this plan in order for money to work for us? So maybe you can kind of unpack that a little bit. How do you do financial planning? Like what are some of the key benchmarks or KPIs that you are looking at when you are creating such a plan? And we have many people who are kind of new on this journey. Actually, when I'm going to ask you some more questions related for newbies who are starting out on this journey. So share some of those core elements with us, Andrew.
Yeah, I think the core elements of the plan are really looking at what are your expenses, right? What are your regular expenses and tracking those expenses, quantifying those expenses so that you have a feel and sense for how much you're spending on a monthly basis and an annual basis. On the other side, you're looking at your income and your savings to see how much are you saving, how much do you have available to invest, and when you're looking at those two sides, if you have a surplus, you have more money than you're spending, then you say, all right, now I have some excess money that I can put towards investing in the stock market, putting it into a retirement plan. Some people prefer to invest in real estate and they want to purchase a rental property that can be rented out. I know a lot of people are doing Airbnb as sort of a side hustle these days, but there are a lot of different ways. It's about making a plan and something that you can review on a quarterly basis, on an annual basis, so that you can really try to monitor where am I today relative to where I want to be. And that could be
Mm-hmm.
5 years from now, that could be 40 years from now.
Yeah, actually, just like start thinking about it. Yeah. So I want to ask you, Andrew, you are a very seasoned financial advisor. So, what are some resources or courses or a website or podcast, of course, besides yours, which is called Inspired Money, and like places we can check it out? Because quite a few people join us live. We're kind of newbies who just reinvented and transitioned career and want to learn more about financial literacy. I love this comment from Ella. She mentioned that I would love to know the name of the course. So she said that she wanted to close the gaps in her knowledge in terms of investment. So she took some courses which are expensive, but as a result, she gained 4 new clients. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. And so
Cool.
share with us, yeah, Andrew, what are some resources like website and like we need to check out and follow and start to learn. and to not become a slave to money, but use money to work for us. Work smarter, not harder.
Well, I think the financial industry, I mentioned the complexity. So there are a lot of acronyms and abbreviations. Uh, you shouldn't become intimidated by those things. I like Investopedia.com a lot, just for basic articles, for looking up terminology and getting definitions. And then there are good articles there, I think, generally about personal finance. And really, it is quite thorough in a lot of the material that is there. I don't really know of any great courses. If you're watching out there and you have good resources for a course, please share that. I'd love to get your input there. I guess I'm kind of like deep in the weeds. I'm like doing this stuff myself, so I don't always keep good tabs on what's available out there in terms of courses. But in addition to financial advisors, there are also financial coaches. There are different professionals that can assist people with wherever you are in your journey.
How about for you? How do you stay educated and like ahead of the curve so that you can coach others, educate others? So where do you gain information to educate yourself?
Just about everywhere. I mean, I think that that's been a positive byproduct of having a podcast. Like, I feel like even more so that I need to be up to date on current events and what's happening. I listen to other podcasts. I watch YouTube. I listen to, I don't know, I guess CNBC.com is a good source for a lot of articles and videos. I think that those are very educational. I actually went to a CNBC event last week and met with some of the journalists and the producers there. And they do a great job about coming up with stories that are money related and still accessible for people.
Yeah. So, like, I saw this question: what is one website, the only one website that where people can kind of get started? Do you know? Maybe there's a great niche. Maybe you should create one. If this is a common question, where is that one place to get started on this to become more financially literate?
I do need to create that. Our blog needs more content. When I do podcasting, I spend too much time on the audio content and not on the written content. As I said, I like Investopedia a lot. Forbes also has a lot of great articles because there are writers on staff as well as industry experts who are writing really for exposure and for thought leadership. So you can get tremendous amount of information there on
Hmm.
both lessons on like how to's, top 10 things that you should be doing, as well as just news on what's happening, current events and around the world that could be impacting your finances and your wallet.
Yeah, 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 definitely. I'm looking forward. Both of my hands are occupied. So if anyone or Peter, maybe you can drop the link in the comment section. So I'm looking forward to checking this out, learn more about. So I see that some people are talking about mindset, which is something that I also struggle with. As small business owners, entrepreneurs, we offer our products and services, we charge people, and like for those of us, I definitely have this, who have self-limiting beliefs, imposter syndrome, feeling like you're not good enough, and not feeling so comfortable to charge your client for how much you deserve. So any tips and advice from your personal experience and from all those interviews that you have done to share with us, how can we overcome our self-limiting beliefs in terms of money? How can we switch or slowly switch that mindset and to feel more worthy and deserving?
Well, I think it takes a little bit of homework, but I do think that it's important to realize what are you worth? What is the work that you're doing? What is that worth? And not to underestimate or undercut yourself. I think that yes, we all tend to have imposter syndrome. We all have doubts and insecurities. And associated with that, there's a tendency to undercut one's price. Um, I did see a comment from Jeff Rose recently. I saw that earlier today, actually. He's a successful blogger and YouTuber. He was a financial advisor, but I think he's doing more content creation these days. He made a comment about when you are trying to price your services. I think that he was saying that you should do a little research to see where you should be. But then he was saying that you take your number and you're constantly trying to double it
Mhm.
and
Yes.
not be afraid to ask for that number because you can always negotiate down. But as you're becoming more established, and again, it goes back to the fact that I think all of us have that imposter syndrome all the time. It doesn't go away no matter where you are in your journey. So it's kind of a good exercise to be doubling your price just to see what the threshold is because you can also you can always negotiate down, but you may be pleasantly surprised quite often the more that you do that that people will accept your price and it can blow your mind.
Totally. And I listened to this podcast and James Whitmore called Mind Your Business. And one piece of advice he always gives to coaches is like double your price. I was like, wow, that sounds so crazy when I first started hearing it.
It
But
does sound
you
crazy.
see, like once you charge very differently, of course you want to make sure what you do is transformational. And but like once you change how much you charge people, you start to attract a different level of clients. And like oftentimes it is easier to work with like kind of the higher price. They are more willing to do the work, to put in the hours, to study, to take action. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean over time you are it's logical for you, your services to be worth more because you do have more experience as you work with more clients. That experience is valuable. And, the more experience you have, you're working with clients and saving time because of that experience that you can accomplish more in less time, right? Because you can leverage your experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And also here, I think we can already talk about this. And so here's a question from, hold on, I'm going to share my screen. Here's another question from Dan and asking you about, where's the question? Here, can you see the first question? Is it better to go all in and invest back into the company or to diversify and put money back into the market? So I kind of answered this question a little bit, but maybe you can talk about the importance of diversification, diversify our investment. So talk about that a little bit more with us.
That one I take case by case. I think
Mm.
that everybody has a different personality and stomach for risk. Um, if I were talking to Elon Musk and saying that I think that he's crazy to be investing in SpaceX to put rockets into the sky and to colonize Mars, uh, look how far he's come so far. So I think that it depends on the business owner. It depends on the situation. The general rule of thumb is that you shouldn't go all or nothing just because you're risking that it could go to nothing. Therefore, diversification tends to be a good thing. If you kind of spread your risk around, it tends to be
Mm.
safer. But if you are a unicorn and you're going to be, if you're going to be the next big, huge, massive company, maybe you do want to go all in. But
Yeah.
just know that that comes at a potential sacrifice that you could win big, you could lose big.
Yeah, like like for me is when I used to only live stream to Facebook, and so one time Facebook was not working that particular day, and I was supposed to go live. I was like, wow, I shouldn't always put my investment into just one platform. And then that day was also kind of my wake up call. I started to do multi channel live streaming. So yeah, so
I
I kind
remember
of
that
hear,
one. I remember you
yeah.
had Facebook was having issues that day.
Yeah, definitely. So you grew up like both of your parents, Andrew, they are like investors, extremely like financially savvy, and you guys also have a very successful family business. So I want to ask you, how have your parents and what they do influenced what you do today and become a financial advisor yourself?
It's had a huge influence on me. I
Mm.
never planned on working in the family business. That wasn't something that we talked about when I was a kid. But on the other hand, we did sometimes sit around the dinner table, and my father would be telling us about the importance of return on equity and business cycles and how appliances go through, that it's a cyclical business and it's tied to the real estate market because when housing is hot, then people are buying washers and dryers. We had those discussions, and the lesson or the context there being that you want to be investing in companies that are also making money. Today, I think that it's very popular to, try to simplify. Even Warren Buffett says that if you don't have the expertise to research companies on an individual basis, you should just own the S&P 500. So own an index fund. That's going to be very rewarding over time. So for me, certainly I think it's a little mix of both, and it comes down to the all or nothing versus diversification. For myself, and I think for most of our clients, we tend to own some individual company stocks. We also own some exchange traded funds, which are index funds or owning an entire index. So that comes very inexpensively and gives you diversification. But yeah, I think talking to many successful investors in my career, many of them have, it's been very rewarding for them to invest in companies rather than investing in an exchange traded fund.
Yeah. This is great. Yeah, unfortunately, I have to go because they are closing this office. I'm so sorry, everyone. So, but Andrew, and share with us. I saw this question. Someone asking you to share maybe some books, and I think people need more help in terms of resources where they can really learn more and to improve their financial literacy and money intelligence. And so, is there a book or any books that I recommend? At the same time, I'm going to share Andrew's website. You guys and definitely check out Andrew's. Let me definitely check out Andrew's a podcast, Inspired Money. And at the same time, here on the lower screen, I'm sharing his website. So please connect with him and check out his podcast. And Andrew, any books you want to share with us? And we're going to wrap up. Yeah, got kicked
Sure.
out.
Yes. Well, please check me out at inspiredmoney.fm. Listen to the podcast. Let me know what you think. I think in terms of books, one of the early ones that I read when I was in high school, which I think still is helpful, is Peter Lynch's book, One Up on Wall Street. It really talks about investing in companies that you know and how rewarding that can be when the companies are growing and there are stock splits and paying dividends. Other books, Erin Lowry's Broke Millennial Does Investing. I don't think that's the exact subject, but her book is very good in giving you an introduction into what you can be doing with your money, both in terms of saving and then investing. And hers is more investing in index funds. But I think her lesson is very good, that investing and managing your money, it's accessible for anybody. All of
So,
us can do better with our money, and
yeah,
that we shouldn't be intimidated.
yeah, definitely. Use money just like social media. Use social media to serve you instead of becoming a slave to social media. Let the money work for you. So I'm definitely going to check out the books, and I'm also going to enter the links in the comment section. I'm so sorry we have to finish this a little bit earlier. And thank you so much, Andrew, for a great interview. Lots of great tips, and everyone, thank you so much for joining us live. I host this show on a weekly basis, and I hope to see you guys next Wednesday, the same time and the same location. And make sure you guys check out Andrew and check out his podcast. And thank you so much again, Andrew.
Thanks for having me. I have a safe trip. Hopefully you have a little dinner and party before you leave, but have a safe trip home.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live. See you next week, hopefully. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.